Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Now, we've just had an election, haven't we not? And here in this country, we've got that wonderful man, Keir Starmer, who's going to make everything so different from the last lot. Maybe that might be a bit optimistic, seeing as they both seem to be working for the same bosses, but never mind. So what we are really looking for, and so many people have said this to me, and so many people are trying to do something similar, is basically a new start, but not the great reset that the late Klaus Schwab wanted, but maybe something a bit different and more beneficial. And as it so happens, through the post, I received this, which is the new blueprint for humanity. And having little read through it, it seemed to make a lot of sense to me. Basically common sense, a lot of critical thinking, and actually stuff that you and I most likely would agree with, rather than the top-down way of doing things. This is very much grassroots up and correcting some of the nasty things that have been happened. And we're going to talk to the author and producer of this new blueprint for humanity in a second. But first, I just wanted to read a little bit on the back so you get a sense of where we're going with this, and then we'll get into the interview. So it says here, humanity's downfall has always been caused by failure to address trauma on a personal and collective level. The result of such failure is a constant underlying fear. Whether they realize it or not, what people fear most is change. Yet change happens all the time, every day, all around. The cycles of life, cycles of day and night, of the seasons and the weather, of renewal and growth, go largely unnoticed by those clinging to the familiarity as if it would save them from pain and distress. Worse, many seek saviours, what amounts to surrogate parents, to fix everything that they perceive as wrong and keep them cocooned in an illusion of security. And change is most definitely what we need. The route, the path that we're on is very much towards a cliff, and it looks like we may all be falling off it unless we do change. So let's find out what the new blueprint for humanity is all about, and let's talk to its author and producer, Thomas Williams. Thomas, or Tom, welcome to the show.
Hi, and thanks for inviting me on, and hope you all get some useful information out of it, and we can all go forward. You know,
I'm absolutely convinced we will. And thank you for sending it, because it came to me out of the blue, the new blueprint. And it was a very, very well-received read from my point of view, because there has been a lot of things that I had just felt intrinsically was right in the document. Now, I know there's a lot of people doing different assemblies and different groups and different things. There's a lot of people trying to do the same thing. We're all looking for the right result. So maybe, Tom, you could tell us in broad terms then, what is this new blueprint? I think we know why we need it, because the path is not right. But what is it that we ought to be doing?
well, from a very young age, I realized before I could articulate, this world is upside down, this world is backwards, which has been made famous by David Icke and previously Chris Hedges. But at that age, I couldn't formulate it. But I'm looking at systems and seeing them broken, whether that's government systems, banking systems, social services systems, police systems, military systems, etc., etc., etc. And I thought at 16 I could change it. Over time, I've met various people. I've been an avid researcher of what we call the alt media, even though our show is not classed as alt media. Well, I don't class it as alt media. It's different, but it's not that type of different. So I assembled and amassed a vast amount of knowledge and research over many years, and then eventually I got round to becoming a radio show host, which kind of surprised myself in many ways. I didn't think I was the best speaker, and I thought, no, people won't understand me and all this. And then eventually I met certain other people that came forward, and I got to get involved in the hidden world more, and realized this whole planet is broken, and every single system is broken. It was designed not to work. That's what I found out over time.
Mm.
And so what people are seeing now is what I call the end of the old world. It has to go down, and a tabula rasa has to evolve, which is a complete reset, because nothing, that all the institutions that we hold dear and think are society's institutions for our benefit are not for our benefit, and they never were. There's not a single organization on this planet that operates for and by the people. Not one. They may tell you they do, but the reality and the actions don't back it up. So eventually, I was collecting, I thought, government systems, law systems, and how can we change it? You know, we're all good at complaining.
Yes.
We're all good at being critics, but nobody comes up with solutions. And this is the problem. We all blame politicians. No, politicians are not relevant in the bigger picture. They're just puppets who follow scripts given to them by think tanks and certain agencies, shall we say. And so blaming them is pointless, because they have no power and they have no authority, which may surprise some of your guests, but that's the reality. And so I myself, on my show, have criticised many politicians, including Keir Starmer. I outed him 4 years ago, and I forecast he would eventually be Prime Minister, and here we are today. And so we can carry on blaming politicians, but I look around the world and I don't see anyone helping them.
Mm.
And people go, well, they don't deserve help. And I get that. So it creates an impasse. So we won't help them and they won't help us. So who gets any help?
Right.
And this is the problem. If people get stuck in a rut, they're the enemy, and we're not going to deal with them. When the very thing that we haven't tried on this planet for many, many thousands of years is coming together and cooperating. We don't have to agree on everything, but we agree on the common principles and the core of it. The people may not like some of the book, and that's okay. But go forward with the core of it, because the bulk of it is fine.
Mm.
But what we found is people will read the book or watch a show and they look for faults. It's like the common uh, um, mode of operation. They'll look for faults rather than look for the positives. And this is what we're trying to change, is we have to 180 everything, including ourselves. The way we operate, the way we engage with each other, it's not good. You know, it's divisive, and it's, in overview, it's childlike. And what we have to develop on this planet is more adult, common sense, basic logic, rhetoric, critical thinking people that comes up with solutions, not creates problems. And so that's the sort of the premise of the book, is I came up with common sense solutions. They're not rocket science. They are maybe to some people because they don't understand all the systems and how they work or how they don't work. Because none of them work. And so I came up with 29 solutions, and I got some of the members to help me to expand on it, because I didn't want this book to be about one person, because as mentioned on the back of the book, it turns into a savior program. And the last thing we need on this planet to continue is the savior program. Someone's always coming to save them. Someone's always going to fix it. Well, no, they're not. And the sooner people realize that and then learn to take personal responsibility for their life, their friends, their circle, their state or county or country, then we're just going to end up with the same mess. It's complete insanity, repeating the same things, like voting for elections, repeating for. They all say they're going to change, yet it does change for the worse.
Absolutely.
And there's this collective 4-year loop amnesia is that somehow this new government is going to be better than the last one because people don't remember the last time they were in. And we have to stop doing that. We have to take responsibility ourselves. If we want a better world, then we have to drive it. And that's how the system works. I've spoken to many so-called, what they would call top-level people. In one of my shows, I proved they're all low-level. They were all being string pulled from much higher up. And the only way that they have control over us is because we allow it. They have no power. It's only what we've allowed. And so my shows have covered the 1%, as we all call it. But I can't possibly, as a critical thinker, sit here and go, all the world's problems are because of 1%. It's a statistical impossibility. Because the great question is, what were the 99% doing? And so I've known for a long time, whilst I've heavily exposed all the cabal and all the multi-layers of it in many, many shows, realized the biggest problem is we the people. We allow them to power over us because we won't take personal responsibility. We allow them to put us in fear when we should operate in love. And we allow them to corral us into systems and agendas and programs when all it takes is people come together and go, I do not consent. And what I know about the top order is many of them now know it's finished. They know the old world, as I call it, is ending. They know it's going to collapse. Everything is going to collapse. It can't do anything else. And we were tasked, and I was tasked, to build a new system and a new world back in 2016. And this book is the end product, but it's also the beginning product because it's just the foundation. And we're looking for many, many people to get behind it and work on improving it. Because it's not perfect. It can't possibly be perfect. There is no perfect. So, but we work towards the best model. And so these solutions based on, like I said, an awful lot of research. I've seen an awful lot of documents. I've seen an awful lot of proof. And our members are all familiar with it. They didn't like much of what I said, but I told them the truth.
Right.
You know, and I told them on the very first show of the Truth, Honor and Integrity show, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And we're going to learn to think and act different because we cannot carry on the way we are and expect things to get better. Because the only way it gets better is people get better. And a lot of THI's show has been about self-empowerment of our members, and they go on and teach others. And All I asking them is to be better people today than they were yesterday, and a better person tomorrow than today. And that's progress. But we have to get out of this system of self-control. People think the cabal or the government control. They don't. It's their own mind based in the fear program, you see.
Yes.
And so we have to get out of what we termed the mind virus and operate from the heart. It has more neurons than the brain anyway. The mind can be controlled, as we know. You probably covered it in some of your shows, but the heart can't. And so if you operate from the heart, you're operating in truth, not the lie, because humanity has become addicted to the lie, the illusion. Well, we have to become addicted to the truth, because that, again, is the 180.
Yes.
And so,
I mean, for many people, trying to even understand what is truth, they're just so not exposed to anything that they're not even given the chance to use critical thinking. They've just got so used to they're thinking very passively and agreeing with mainstream media, mainstream politics, the general narrative.
yeah, well, we operate in a robotic world. Repeat after me. So the schools and education, as they call it, well, education actually means training of animals.
Well, there you go. Says it
We,
all, does it not?
yeah. So we need to teach, and part of the blueprint is about teaching the youth. I can get into that in a minute. But we're living in a robotic world of copy and repeat. Repeat after me. It happens in school, it happens with governments, it happens with the media, and it also happens in the church. Repeat after me. Heaven forbid you ask a question. Why are
Yeah.
we not allowed to ask questions? You know, doesn't that tell you there's something wrong with the system if we're not allowed to ask questions? But
Well,
it
we're all
starts at the
going with the
school.
science, aren't we? I mean, we've heard
Yeah.
that with so many of these big policies. We're going with the science. It's all fixed. It's all settled. And since
Yeah.
when was science ever settled?
Yeah, well, I have a rather humorous saying about science. Trust the science. Personally, I'd sooner set fire to my own testicles than trust the science. It, it, I think it's disturbed us all, those of us who didn't get jabbed, at how compliant the people really are.
Absolutely. I'm shocking that people weren't questioning something that was new and untested and what the results might happen. I mean, regardless of what the injection contained, the fact that it was new and untested for particularly young women, pregnant women, and on potential life that they would give in form of babies, of course, and nobody knows what 5, 10 years down a new technique would be. It seems ridiculous that anybody would say, okay, yes, I'll give that a go. And we know that we became the guinea pigs, or those that happened to choose it, which obviously wasn't yourself and neither mine.
No, his story, not history.
Yes.
His story always repeats. So it's easy to forecast once you see the pattern. And I was kind of reminded, and we all saw videos of people lining up in makeshift tents in the UK and over in America. And they were lined up down the street. And it took me back to some of the video footage of World War II, of the Poles and the Hungarians, and there's many Slavic people and some Jewish, all lining up to go on the train. It's the same concept.
Yes, absolutely.
You know,
So
and
should we? Sorry to
No,
interrupt. It be, shall we go into some of the detail of because I'm sure the audience will be going, okay, we understand what you're saying, but how do we change things, and what sort of suggestions have you got to give them to whet their appetite?
yes. Well, we'll start with the government. Whether it's Britain or America, it's the same concept. Um, Britain and America have not had a government since 1871. You've had a corporation that is ran primarily by the Crown in the City
Mm.
of London. And they control everything via certain hidden royals, not the royals you see in the palace. And there's hidden royals that run the world in a different way. And so the government is based upon fraud. And so we explain, because that book is for an American change. We have members that are translating and changing it into like a UK or an even a European one. So it rolls out across the world. And most of them, the solutions are generic anyway. Obviously,
Yes.
the military one will be different, and the government will have minor changes. But the concept is the same. We don't have a government for and by the people. And so the people need to demand a government for and by the people, not pick their candidates. Because people haven't noticed, we don't pick our own candidates. We're being told to vote for their candidates.
Yes.
And then that becomes implied consent. And we cover that in the shows, and there's a free book on one of the websites on do not consent and what is consent and not consent. And so the government is not operating for and by the people, but they're using our money. And people have also forgotten governments don't have money, they have our money.
Yes. And they're very quick to spend it.
Although they're very quick to spend it on their own agenda because
Yes.
that's what they're there for. And we've got a country with people living in poverty. You've obviously got the migrant issue now that's been deliberately created to bring down the country also. And people will automatically blame the migrants. No, blame the policymakers,
Yes.
and so we need a band of people to come together and agree on basic things of how you would want your world or your country to operate and go forward with it, not argue over semantics and pedantics and all that, because that's how everything stops.
Yes.
Um, and so the government needs to be restructured completely for and by the people only. The same applies with the law solution, because people really need to get a grasp of the basics of their law, because actually it doesn't apply to us. And we cover that in the book and explain the ancient law, cosmic law, and Rita law. And that needs to be changed. The bar system comes out of the Crown, which is again the City of London. The banking system comes out of the Crown, the Crown, again the City of London. And banks are the same as governments. They don't have their own money; they have ours.
Mm.
And again, this is um, basic logic and reasoning that we've forgotten.
Yes.
It's our money. So if we don't want to be spending it on weapons for Israel, then you tell them we want it spent on child services and the elderly, because we're not looking after the children or the elderly. And if a country fails to look after the children and the elderly, it fails,
Yes.
and nobody's looking after them.
No, you're quite right.
And we cover some of the children's stuff in the social services. all your so-called institutions have all failed us, and they're never going to get better. It's not a band-aid. It's a complete reset, because I know, having spoken to many top people, as they call themselves, I don't consider them that way. In fact, I don't consider anyone above myself, and neither should anybody else. You know, we were all given rights by the Creator itself of equal. And that means we have an equal use of land, and that's covered in the book. Nobody owns land, everybody does. The right of use. Well, they've usurped that with all the money magic schemes and all that malarkey, and we intend to take it back. You know, there is a new banking system that is ready to roll out. The old one has to go down, because they've got backdoors and everything, and there's a whole section on banking of how we protect our money, and it's not being siphoned out of backdoors into private accounts and offshore accounts, a lot of which has been shut down. That's why you're seeing financial issues around the world. There used to be 123 trillion GDP. It's now down to 40 to 60 trillion, and the money pot is dwindling. That's why the banks are in crisis. And they were offered many deals in 2017, 18, and 19 to step down. They would be funded, but they had to step down. And they refused, and they bargained and gesticulated and all this. But ultimately, they have to step down again, because they're finished, they're bankrupt. The figures are enormous. You know, they tell you the US is 34.5 trillion. You can't pay that back.
No.
But there's actually a law in the Federal Reserve, which is owned by the Crown. There's a law in the Federal Reserve where it says the United States always has to be in debt. So that's why the United States always has to pay for everything.
Right.
And and so, you know, we're assembling I'm meeting with certain people who are fairly prominent. I've got more meetings to come up with certain people that most people don't get to know of or hear about, of how we can really change this world, because their reign is over. It's finished. They know that. And rather than have them lynched, hung, quartered and drawn, and all the other violent tactics that they brought to us, they made man in their image. The book told you that. And people thought it was more to do with genetics. No, it was psychology. And they want to step down, but they're frightened that the people are going to come for them. And the people will. And so what the book is, and if we get people to get behind it, it gives people hope. So we're not going around we have to shoot this person, hang this person, this, that, and the other. Is because a lot of these people that have been involved in bad things have been leveraged and blackmailed into it. And so I came up with a solution of full disclosure for full disclaimer. And certain crimes will be overlooked, but they would then reveal all what they've been involved in, who was involved in, where the money came from, etc., etc. And then you can build up a database of the old world and the old system of corruption and fraud, and we can go forward and eradicate it altogether. Now, the only stipulation that I put in that full disclaimer for full disclosure is anyone found meddling with children, and we've all heard some of the atrocities of that. Now they're going to get dealt with in a different way.
And there does seem to be, I mean, that seems to be the big Achilles heel for a lot of people, because they have been blackmailed or they have been put in uncompromising positions. And I mean, I can't say I've actually seen any photographs or evidence of this, although these days with the AI and deep fake, it would be very difficult to prove any of this now because anybody could be
Well,
photographed.
that's why they brought it out. They knew it's coming out.
Yes.
They've known the old world in essence ended on the 31st of December 2012. Now it would take multiple shows to explain why and that. And so there was a change in timeline and frequency from the 1st of January 2013. And this is why you're seeing their people collapse. You heard about the Royals complaining they've not got enough money, and people laugh. Well, actually, they didn't, because all their wealth got taken off them in 2014, and they were pushed out of the game. And so everything is collapsing. This book will give people hope, where they're coming with positive solutions, not negative complaints.
Mm.
And if only people understood their own body frequency of how damaging it is to just complain and complain. It's all low vibration. And then shift to a higher vibration, operating in truth, love, and hope. It changes the whole frequency of this planet, and everything fixes itself. But it starts with the people, not with governments, not with cabals and all these people. It starts with us. And all we have to do is come together. It's that simple. But we always want to argue. And
Yes.
this is why the system controls us, because we can't control ourselves. We can't learn to cooperate. We'll sooner argue with each other over minor things, and we miss the bigger picture. So I'm hoping people who come and read the blueprint, I think they will agree, 99% of it, because it's just basic common sense. And then come and join some of our working groups, because THI is a working group as well as a show, on how we can get the message out. We've got media teams, we've got a law team, we've got a research team, we've got an activist team, web team, etc., etc., etc. And we're going to be joining up with larger numbers soon, because we've been engaging other groups to come and combine together. And hopefully your listeners will find something interesting and value of it. And hopefully for the first time in history, and it is in history, the people will decide how this planet really operates in a better way.
And that's what I mean, we have to do that because, as you say, everything is collapsing around. And I think that as things get worse, people will start to be looking for something. And we're very, as you say, we're very good at complaining when there's systems all in. But it's quite interesting when people are put up against the wall, as it were, instead of finding things to moan about, they actually just get on. And and I think certainly with the British people, but and I'm sure this is the case with others, that actually there is that sense of camaraderie and enjoying a challenge when everything else has when just before you lose everything, it's like, well, actually, there's a chance to do something. And when people have that chance, they feel that sense of duty, that sense of that actually I'm enjoying this, I'm helping. There's gratitude, there's pride in a good way, not in a bad way, and people start to realise the things that are actually important in life, and not the things they thought were important.
Yeah, one of the things, if there's a hurricane, say in America, um, is the black, white, black, Hispanic, the gender and the sexuality programs all end, because they all mix in and clean up together.
Absolutely, and that's what we've got to do.
Why does it take a disaster for people to come together? Why can't we come together in hope, not in disaster? Because ultimately, whether people believe in this book now, at some point in time in the future, you will have to. Just how bad has it got to get before the people come together under
Yes.
one platform? Everyone retains their autonomy. I'm not asking people to give up their groups and come and join mine. No, everyone retains their autonomy. And one of the things that I came up with on the website is the flower of life, which is on the book and the t-shirt. And this is all us. But in the middle is the heart.
Yes.
And everything comes from that. And so when we merge with other groups, and there is a big group about to merge with us, their name will go on the flower of life. And so it shows a collective consciousness, because this is a consciousness war. It's a war of the minds versus the war of the heart. And we have to win both of them. I just hope there's a vacuum at the moment, and nature doesn't like a vacuum. It has to be filled. And it has to be filled by the people coming together and developing the new blueprint for humanity. Yes, it's a system book, but really it's about us. We have to 180 the way we operate and stop being child-led, because on a galactic level, we're a child-level species. We have to become adults.
Yes. And the thing is, there's no going back now. I think
Now,
we've gone through so much. We may not quite realise how much we've gone through, because it's just happened and it's all around. But eyes are beginning to open, and all over the place, I'm sensing little droplets of they may not know everything. They don't
no,
need to know everything,
no,
but
nobody knows everything.
well, exactly. But there is a sense in here that things are not quite working, and I think that people are now slowly, ever more. There are more people who are awake than ever before. There are people who are becoming aware for the first time, and they're talking. And many of us who've been thinking and talking and expressing this are, as I've said many times, up with the signposts, just to sort of guide people, not push them, not direct them, but just guide them and say, well, maybe have a look at this, maybe have a look at this. And there is only one direction out of all of this. And you've eloquently identified, as you say, 29 pointers, which most people, I would imagine, would read that and go, well, that just makes sense. It's not like you're trying to thrust anything new and unusual down people's throats. It's like, well, okay, what? Hang on. Shouldn't the government have been doing all of this anyway? Isn't that part of looking after people?
No.
So I do urge people to sort of go to the website, which I'll put it up on the screen here. Here we go. And I'll put the links in the description. And then they can read all about it here and download the PDFs and order a paperback, make a donation, etc. And of course, listen to your shows, which are on this website here, which is the thi-show.com, which I shall put in with all your videos, next show, etc. Yeah. Books and lots to read, lots to take in. But as you say, you're not forcing it down anybody's throats.
No, I've never advertised my show, because some of the things I tell people what they don't want to hear. So it can make me very unpopular. I don't care, because someone has to stand up and tell the truth, whether you like it or you don't. And people often get triggered. Well, if I've triggered someone, the problem was not me. The problem was themselves.
Yes.
Because and all our members have all took pot shots at me at various times, and that's okay. I knew what I was getting into, because we've lived a lie for too long. We're living a life of illusion. we have to step into reality and the truth. And the truth's harsh.
Yes.
The truth's
But
harsh.
but the hope that there is for humanity, and once we have transitioned and turned everything the right way round as it should be, what a beautiful place it will be. And we'll look back and go, how did we put up with all of that?
This is the problem. Humanity tolerates
We do, don't we?
the most ridiculous things ever.
Yes.
You know,
And we shrug it off as well, which is,
yeah,
it's incredible as people go, oh, well, that's it. That's the way it is. Well, it doesn't have to be.
no, they wear the slave suit far too comfortably.
Yes.
They created us all as slaves, or turned us, all of us into slaves, and people think that's related to just one color of the skin.
Mm.
No, all of us, if you read the terminology of the law, means
Yes.
slave. Common law. There's a lot of people in the UK, common law this and common law that. Common law means voluntary servitude, which is slavery,
Yes.
and we don't know what we're consenting to. And so, and then, like I said, you tolerate far too much, austerity measures. Well, I don't see the politicians and all the superstars doing
No, they haven't sold their
austerity.
houses, have they? They haven't sold their houses and got rid of their flash cars to help humanity
Yeah.
by any means.
If the royals can't afford Buckingham Palace, go and get a house down somewhere in London.
Yeah.
Every,
A little terrace cottage.
yeah,
I could rent them a little terrace cottage if they're interested.
but this is,
Reasonable rates.
yeah, this is the problem. We
Yeah,
tolerate everything.
we
Oh,
do.
what people go, what can I do? Well, I would always say the same as everybody else. I'm only one person, the same as everybody else.
Mm.
I'm not above anybody and I'm not below anybody. So if I can come up with that, everyone else can. It just takes a change of heart, not mindset, a change of heart of I can do, not tell me what you can't do.
Yes.
Because we're all good at that. Oh, I can't do this and can't do that. Well, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear, what can you do?
What can you do? Exactly.
So it's a change at the 180 that needs to be, that is required of all of us. And if we all come together, we only need 8%. And this may shock some of your listeners. If 8% come together behind the blueprint, it has to unfold. The system has to step down because we have then proven we are sound of mind, competent, and are willing to take responsibility for it.
And we
They
must be
have
close.
they
We
have to
must be
step
close.
down.
Yeah.
They have to step down. There's no fighting, there's no violence. They have to step down. And I'm trying to give there's meetings being arranged with these so-called top people, bloodline families, and all the other stuff, um, where we go to them as an appeal because they've been lied to also. They've been tortured. They've been abused. I cover that in some other shows. Everyone's been lied to, tortured, and abused. Just because they have lots of pieces of paper with numbers on and fancy yachts and boats and mansions does not mean they have not been treated well. It's an illusion. I'm not asking people to feel sorry for them because they've done bad things. But what I'm going to speak to them about is you have karma to correct. Come and support us. You know that your time is over. They all know it now. Step down and come and support us, fix the planet, and in the meantime, you can fix your karma as well. The same as the US military for the poverty solution. The plan is to get all the US military, because they've got the logistics, to deliver houses, infrastructure, roads, clean water, electricity, etc., in all places all over the world. They have the resources to do so. And that also fixes their karma for killing people. So everyone gains out of it. No one gets left out in this blueprint. Everyone gains from it. There's no violence involved because repeating their patterns is going to keep the status quo.
Yes.
We have to think different. We have to act different, and we have to be different. Otherwise, it's just going to descend into the same thing.
Absolutely.
So it's all about a spiritual war in many aspects, and people will see that in the book, where it's poetic justice in a way. Is that
Well,
the very people they thought they controlled, they would have to come and help them
well, that
get
is
back on them.
poetic. That is poetic justice. Thomas, it's been a joy to talk to you. Thank you so much for sharing an outline of the new blueprint for humanity. I'll put the links in the description so that people can check it out and get in touch and leave comments and tell us what you think. It will be fascinating to hear your views. It seemed to resonate very much with me, and I'm sure it will resonate with the audience. And many of the things that I've been talking about over the last 19 months have, without even knowing it, it just, as you say, it is common sense. A change of heart is what's needed. And let's face it, nobody wants more of the same. So, Thomas, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you, Richard, for inviting me on, and I hope your members got much out of it.
I'm sure they have. So there we are. I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests. As you know, at the moment I'm on a different channel, but this will be swapped over onto the main channel once the other YouTube ban is back. But until the next time, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, from Thomas and I, goodbye.